The time has come. We've been talking about Kentucky for the last few weeks extensively, but it is Kentucky week and we are so excited because we have two very, very special classes to bring you. We have the Defender Kentucky 5-star, but of course the Cosequin Kentucky 4-star short, and both are just packed with top class competition. And there has been quite a few updates in the last day or so that has definitely changed the prediction center and what may unfold this week. But before we get stuck into all things Kentucky, I am so happy to say she's back, listeners. We've missed her very, very much. Nicole Brown, thank you for coming on the show. And how is life as a mum of two?
Thanks for having me back, Rosie. It is good. It is nice to be back. It is nice to be talking about eventing. I have, as everybody would have expected, not disappeared over the last few weeks. I have been annoying everybody, popping my head up at inappropriate times and being like, has anybody seen this news? I am so excited for Kentucky. And there's always this kind of really palpable feeling of anticipation around a 5-star. But put it in an Olympic year at this time of their season, and everything has so much importance. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it is going to play out. They've got a great field. I think the 4-star is a really interesting dynamic this year. Can't wait.
It is a really, really exciting year, and we're just so happy to have you back on the podcast. It is great to have you here. But Dee, this Kentucky feels extra special because you've almost got two different, obviously they're two different types of competition. One's a 4-star, one's a 5-star, but they've both got their own special element. The 5-star, it feels almost like redemption for a lot of the people at the top of the prediction center. You know, JL Dublin, they were second here last year, which was great, but the back end of the year didn't quite go to plan for them if they're thinking Olympics with that fall at the Europeans. Banzai de Loire, Yasmin Ingham, you know, they had that run out here last year. Oliver Town and Cooley Rosalind, they were so close to winning Maryland last year. It really does feel like redemption in the 5-star, but then the 4-star, like you mentioned with Frankie the other day, Battle Royale. It's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting. I mean, there's just so many different ways to take it. It's one of the challenges of a preview pod where I don't really remember. It was always the 5, wasn't it? Like it was always the 5-star, and then the 4-star had this emergence over the last couple of years where there was enough good stories coming from the 4-star. Because of the Olympic year, as Nicole mentioned, we see so much of the head-to-head happening in the 4-star that you're immediately drawn to the fact that, oh, look, there's My Bomb, there's Chin Tonic, there's Mixmaster C. Then, of course, I see Nicole's eyebrows being raised because, of course, we get that news this morning that just breaks overnight that My Bomb's out of the 4-star. I think we should start there. Nicole, what's your gut feeling? Is it like...
So I would say I refrained from messaging you all in the middle of the night because I was actually up feeding a tiny baby, and I saw Tammy's post in sort of what would have been
in real time
morning in our time, but just as it came out, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to tell somebody. This is huge because I mean, this isn't just the defending champion not coming back to try and take, yes, a different Kentucky title this year, but the effect that this potentially has. This is one of the final trials for the US team for Paris. So the effect that it has on a potential Paris team is huge as well. Everybody else will be kind of thinking, right, okay, now is my chance to strike. We don't know how sort of major the injury is. It's very much kind of something small, and we should see him back out again soon and playing on the safe side. But there are only a couple of final trials left. You've got Kentucky, you've got Badminton, you've got Tryon. So actually that's all in the next couple of weeks. We're not going to see My Bomb. It is a huge blow for the 4-star. It opens the door for somebody else to stake their claim.
I mean, the two at the top going into, from a prediction center point of view, were obviously Chin Tonic and My Bomb going head to head at the top of that. Mixmaster C a little bit behind. I mean, the updated ones that are just coming to us in the last couple of hours. I mean, it's now, it kind of, so what it does when you see a big favorite like that come out is that you'll see those win chances and those podium chances get distributed across the rest of the competition. So essentially you rerun the competition without that person in it. It's now Will Coleman, out-and-out favourite, a 25% win chance. Next in line, Mixmaster C has bumped up a bit. They're up to 19%. And then you've actually got Will's Aachen winner off the record coming in third, and then Liz's Cooley Quicksilver coming in fourth. So you're looking at fairly big dominance now with the 4-star between Will Coleman and Liz Halliday. What's interesting, Nicole, is I on the preview show, I was on the same way of thinking as you are there now, which is we weren't just seeing an incredible battle at the top of a 4-star short between those two. We were potentially seeing the Olympic front two, I would say. Like My Bomb and Chin Tonic were well able to go and challenge in Paris for it to be top 5. It's huge news for Paris. And this statement is standard enough statement, which is we'll be back soon.
I thought it was very diplomatic and clever.
Yeah, hard to know.
As you would expect.
Yeah, hard to know what it means. But from a fan point of view, we can speculate. I mean, we shouldn't, but you have to as a fan, where the first thing you think is, My Bomb's out. Like, how bad is it? When are they back? What does it mean? Because that's big. That is big for Paris. I can't stress that enough. My Bomb's a horse that I put as a potential gold medal winner in Paris. The energy of a country can change on these small things, which is if My Bomb was to go back and win a 4-star short at Kentucky, backing up the 5-star win, they roll into Paris with all of their razzmatazz and glamour. Now they're fighting. They're fighting to get back to Paris by the sound of things.
It feels for me like he was already not on the back foot, because that isn't fair for a horse that had done so well, top 5 at Aachen last year, or podium at Aachen, I think it was last year, winner of Kentucky. But he hasn't done a lot since then. They have saved him just for Kentucky and Paris. Paris, they bypassed the 5-star this year, which absolutely thought they would. He's an older horse, so it makes total sense. That being said, actually, they haven't got a huge amount of other form in the last 9 months where other horses have been going out there and producing the results. I would say, though, let's focus on the horses that are still going, because it is massive, massive news. But actually, we have still got some absolutely brilliant horses. And I was smiling to myself, actually, because Chin Tonic, Will Coleman, top of the prediction centre, they were brilliant at the Aachen Showcase earlier on this year. And actually, he, on his last run in Aachen, Stable View, he scored a 26.5 in the first phase. Now, anybody else would be delighted with a 26.5. I have a feeling that rather lit a fire under Will Coleman, and he was not an overly impressed bunny and will be coming out with something to prove this time, because actually he just felt too many mistakes crept in, and he has been on such big form that I feel like actually we're going to see the results of that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a sort of not a kick up the backside, but a bit of a reality. These are horses, they're animals. Things don't always go right all the time. But when things don't go 100%, I mean, 26.5, let's be totally truthful, that's still bloody good. They just come out and they get better. And that's what I'm expecting from him this weekend.
I think you could be right. You're totally right with the 26.5 not being their best, but still a wildly good score. 19.4 is in fact their best ever dressage score at the 4-star short. I think he's going to be posting a sub 20. I'm going to say that it's definitely going to be a sub 20, I say.
There was talk from Tammy that she would go sub 20. Like kind of the general feeling was that My Bomb was performing at a level that could hit that. And you're right, Nicole. I should just stay with the horses that are going, and I will come back to that now. But I'm still in the immediate aftermath of digesting this news. Sub 20,
I love
sub
how
20
I'm not
guys.
even the host, and I'm like, come on, team, come back. I'll get back in my box now. Sorry.
It's just it is big news. But for Will Coleman to hit a sub 20, again, as you say, in an Olympic year. What does it mean? I think in an Olympic year, it'll immediately carry what that looks like for Paris. Like, and I mean that on Thursday or Friday, whenever they do their dressage test, it will mean there'll be excitement around how the rest of the 4-star short will play out. But immediately, if he does deliver something below 23, it moves all the way into the can he deliver that in Paris this summer?
It's interesting. Laura Collett, London 52, they've come out this season at Thorsby with a sub 20 in the first phase.
Yeah.
Now you're saying, okay, right, what can Will Coleman do? If he can do similar, he's in that conversation. Tammy would have been in that conversation as well. We're yet to see Michael Young and Fisher Chipmunk yet internationally. Trust me, listeners, I am like the internet online entry stalker of the year, because I'm looking to see when he might be out. If anybody's got any inside intel, drop us a DM. You've got them in the sort of the 4-star level that we've seen them at, but you've got the likes of a couple in the 5-star, Banzai de Loire with Yazingham and JL Dublin, Tom McEwen, that we're also going to be looking at in a similar sort of fashion.
Yeah,
I agree. But I think in the 4-star, though, looking at the top of that prediction centre, Liz Halliday and Mixmaster C, probably not sub 20, but definitely not far at all. They're producing a 22.5 Carolina at the start of the year to take the win there. I don't think you can discount them, obviously, at the top of the prediction centre, but we're focusing on the dressage phase for now. They're definitely going to be hot on Will Coleman's heels with Chin Tonic.
They're the next in line. I mean, when you go and look at the, you're right, because you're looking at it. I'm trying to bring us back to looking at it from the two perspectives, because there's no point in ignoring the just the big elephant in the room of the summer. And then you're also trying to just consistently bring your way back into what's happening right in front of us. Mixmaster C is just matching the 22.5. Again, Nicole, you're mentioning Chin Tonic wanting to come to improve on that 26 or whatever it may be, that they will come out firing. All Liz has to do on Mixmaster C is just stay anywhere near their norm. And, we had the disappointment of late last year at the Pan American Games as to how that played out. But yeah, again, I would expect Mixmaster C probably to lead this, from a first phase, and then you've got to see how the cross country first phase.
You think Mixmaster C? Yeah, I'm going Chin Tonic beats Mixmaster C in the first phase, 100%.
But you can't say 100% because.
Well, 100% in my mind, I would say Chin Tonic leads Mixmaster C in the first phase here. That is obviously not a statistical analysis, listeners.
I don't think there'll be much between them. Do
you think there's anybody who's going to be close to them? Or do you think it is just going to be those two out in front after that first phase by some margin?
I don't think they'll be that far out in front.
No?
I think they'll bunch up a little bit. Go on, Nicole.
So what I'm going to flag actually is Danito, Tammy Smith. We've obviously talked about My Barm not being there. Tammy is there. She has Danito, who, listeners, we haven't seen at this level since 2023, beginning of 2023. But he scored on his last international 21.8, which was a significant improvement for a horse that actually has been second at Maryland the year before. Significant improvement on his first phase scores. If that is the trend in which he can continue, then absolutely don't be surprised to see Danito enter the mix as well.
How wild would it be if we're all here going, oh my gosh, My Bomb's withdrawn for Tammy, she ends up winning it on Danito? That would just be like a fairy tale.
It would, but it's not qualified for Paris.
Yeah.
So if we're talking a Paris conversation, it would be bittersweet, I'm sure.
There's so many different ways. Nicole, talk to me about your horse there. How do you think Commando and Boyd will deliver in the first phase?
Connor. Commando 3. Boyd Martin. Really interesting, actually. So when I was talking about Chin Tonic, Will Coleman, Will being disappointed, in inverted commas, with a 26.5 at Stable View, the horse that beat him that day in all 3 phases was Boyd Martin's Commando 3. He scored 25.7. He has all of the ingredients, this horse. I mean, this is a horse that's got 3 international wins on the bounce in his last 3 runs. He is on very, very good form. He's got a great record with Boyd. They've had it to kind of bring things together in the first phase. He can be a little bit hot and spooky, but when everything does come together, he has all of the ingredients to be posting a score that is just as good as the others. If that is going to come now, I'm not sure. However, I think he is going to be very competitive. And actually, Boyd also has Federman B, who has been in great form start of this year. Federman B actually a 4% win chance. You have to kind of scroll down a little bit. There's a little clump outside of the top 4. that are all sort of 4 and 5%. Commando 3, 5%, and actually Federman B 4%. But Federman B has been in great form, and actually we saw him go well at Poe at the end of last year. He was brilliant at Le Moulin last summer. He came out at the showcase in very, very good form for Boyd, and I was super impressed with his cross-country round there. I would be thinking at this stage that between those two, Federman B is possibly Boyd's horse for Paris, but it is really close. Commando 3, I think, is absolutely a horse for a championship for the US in the future. Maybe that is thinking for the Worlds in a couple of years in Aachen. I don't know, but I think Boyd's got 2 very, very good shots. And he will be one of those riders that actually will be looking to capitalise on the fact that, one of the big guns is missing this weekend, because he's got a real shout for a team spot.
Well, before we move on to the 5-star dressage, I'm going to ask you both, who leads the dressage in the 4-star?
Will Coleman, Chin Tonic.
Yeah, should be Will Coleman, Chin Tonic, I guess. I think Mixmaster C will be close. I also think Caroline Muchu and Blake will be closer. It's getting good. They all benefit from this My Bomb news. Obviously, Tammy tries to get My Bomb back, but you're right, Nicole. Boyd Martin, Commando, Philip Dutton, Julant, Caroline Pamuchku and Blake, they're all there looking step into that spot, step into that place. And I don't know if they can, but if they can win this, and all of those horses that we're talking about can win this, ultimately they all can win this. It's a huge change in landscape for the summer. And by the way, to take that one step on, I don't think this is good for the US without My Bomb. But you're building it. I had an interview this morning, and one of the questions for me was around, are we entering an unprecedented level of dominance for the British team, given the number of riders in the top 20? And what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that we had that unprecedented level of dominance going into Tokyo. So you went to Tokyo, and normally in the kind of the fight for an Olympic selection, you have a few horses, as we're seeing this year already, 1 or 2 horses kind of picking up an injury or losing a little bit of form. The Brits going into Tokyo ended up with 11, 12 combinations that were all exceptional. And on any other team in the world would have pretty much got a guaranteed spot. They then went on not only to win Team Gold and a record-breaking score in Tokyo, but they also went on to win a European Championship Team Gold as well a few months later in a Volge. That is the strength and depth. For me, that strength and depth has diminished slightly. It's still exceptional, don't get me wrong. However, there are a few horses that have lost a little bit of form. There's a few horses that have got a little bit more of a question mark. That form going into Tokyo was almost unpenetrable. You just couldn't pick fault with people. Now you can. Now, yes, we're being very picky. I would say, in answer to the question, we have been in that level of dominance. I think others are fighting to be as good. They just haven't quite got the strength and depth. That's not to say the British team isn't beatable, because I think they are. I think other teams could do it. But I think we're not in as strong a position as we were pre-Tokyo.
I think that the Germans and probably the Kiwis at the turn of the 2000s time with Blythe, Toddy, Andrew there, then the prices to follow. I think you had that period of even Nick Larkin when we talk about Kentucky. Well, I think was he a 98 winner? The Kiwis dominated the sport in the 2010s. The Germans dominated the sport lately.
The Aussies did in the 90s. The Aussies did in the 90s, three back-to-back Olympic golds.
I don't think what we've seen yet from the Brits is unprecedented. In that we have seen the Germans really dominated everything for that run. I think they won every individual and team gold available for the first while, and the Brits have gotten closer to that. I agree with you on the strength and depth, but I do think, for every one that drops out, Cooley Rosalind, arrives on the scene with Oliver, and you just keep backing it up. Banzai de Loire, Vendredi Biats, like 3 5-stars now for London 52. I think, we can pick holes potentially, but they're very, very small holes, if anything. But what I said in answer to it was, they're dominating. They're not fully there yet, but the Aussies have fallen away, so they're not anywhere. The Kiwis have fallen. I know they've got Byrne and I know they've got Ahoy and that kind of thing, but I'm talking about try and challenge. Yeah, Vasily, but like try and challenge 3-time 5-star winner Rosalind, Banzai, JL Dublin. Like let's be like I'm talking here as in general terms. When I say they've fallen away, they're just not at the level. Like no one is at this level yet, and they're not where they were 5 years ago. Like they're not where they were going into Tokyo. They're not where they were going into Rio. And I think you can say the exact same with the Kiwis. You can say the same. The Irish have fallen away. So there's no real Aussie challenge coming strong. There's no real Kiwi challenge coming strong. There's no real German challenge coming strong. Fisher Chipmunk is right there. But like it is not Samurai Dato, Chipmunk, Rakana, Sam, Hale Bob, Luvo, Viamont. Like we've been in times, Corrida, like we've been in times when they've had all that power. They're very much transitioning from one to the other. So you don't have the German challenge where it was. You don't have the Kiwis. You don't have the Aussies. What you do have is the US. And everything for me was coming around the US challenge. And if you had the US suddenly emerging as an Aachen winner with Will Coleman, suddenly emerging as a Pertoni, world championship podium, suddenly getting my bomb back to win Kentucky, you had a momentum building and building and building. I don't think it's a small thing what's happened overnight, because I think we needed my bomb to stay. Like there'll be those other riders will be disappointed, or they'll be pleased in one sense that they get a door open for them. They'll all be disappointed because my bomb is a big leader in that dressing room, and they all would want to be on a team with my bomb. Like for my bomb to go out, and I know she's not out with Paris. Like if Tammy listens to this, she'll be like, "Here."
She'll be raging with it.
Yeah, she's like, "You shut up! Like this horse is still totally grand." Yeah, that's fine. But like, what I would have liked to see here is that you back up the 5 with a big performance in the 4, because I think with LA 2028 coming, with the investment, with the talk, with the West Coast, with everything is pointed towards the US taking over from the Brits, or at the very least being the main challenger to the Brits. It's all laid out. It's a roadmap, and it's all done. And the US are the main challengers. But we can't have the US. We can't have any more transitional time. We can't go without my bomb. So we can't go without my bomb. We need this horse to come back and be sound and go to Paris. So that means we just need to hold tight, and a few horses will step up here. I'm all right for that, but that's what I'm thinking. I think get that team captain in. We need the 2 of them.
Don't get me wrong. I think my bomb is a linchpin of the US team, and I think he absolutely would be one of the favourites. However, I don't think you can write off the US team just because my bomb potentially might not go to Paris.
No. I'm not doing that.
I still think they have got really good strength and depth. They've got Will Coleman, who's actually got, let's be honest, we're talking about Chin Tonic. He's got off the record an Aachen winner who's got massive experience, top 10 at a World Championships in Pretoni. He's got a really exciting ride in Diabolo as well. Boyd Martin's got a couple of rides. Liz Halliday's got a couple of rides. These are all riders. Caroline Pamuccio has a couple of horses in it. They've got strength and depth coming through.
And I'm talking about the West Coast superhero who can win the Olympics. Like my bomb can win the Olympics, win Paris, and then take the Olympic gold medal energy back to the West Coast of America before LA 2028. They will dominate the sport for 5 or 10 years off the basis of the energy that they can create if my bomb wins the Olympics. But for my bomb to win the Olympics, we need my bomb to go to the Olympics. And I think the future of the sport depends on the Brits not dominating it and then everyone else falling away and losing interest. So, Nicole, the future of eventing depends on my bomb being fit.
Right, I thought, I'm lacking sleep, listeners. I was like, I've not talked about eventing in 4 weeks. I thought I was the one that was going to be talking absolute utter madness.
Listeners, if you could see the hand signals and the passion from Dee and Nicole, the hands are all over the place.
We've missed each other, Rosie. It's been a while since we've had a
it's been too long, my friend. It's been too long.
I want to focus on the dressage in the 5-star, because we talked about there are going to be some low scores in that 4-star. But the 5-star is going to be just as exciting, because this really is where it matters for the Brits if you're thinking Paris, because there's lots of these riders coming forwards. looking to prove a point and get the selectors' attention before Paris. You know, JL Dublin, Tom McEwen, top of the prediction centre with 30% win chance. The pair sub 30 last year, as were Banzai de Loire, Yazingham. I think Yaz was a 22.1, if I remember correctly, and maybe slightly off there, 22.1. And JL, terrible. JL Dublin at 22.6. So 2 mega dressage horses at the top of that prediction centre, but Cooley Rosalind, Oliver Townend in third there on the prediction centre, the pair who produced a fantastic dressage score at their first 5-star last year at Maryland, a 23.1. Is it going to be a British battle in that dressage phase? Because you have got Liz Halliday and Cooley Nutcracker behind. So we've got 2 of the top 3 rated 10-year-olds in the world in this 5-star. This is going to be exciting.
Will be rubbing their hands together in glee. Cooley Rosalind, Cooley Nutcracker. I'll be honest, I think it is a dominance from the British, not only in the first phase, but in the 5-star completely by the end of the competition. I think you're going to be doing some to go past those 3.
Do you agree, Dee? Because you spoke with Frankie about this, about whether it's US or Europe, but I think Nicole could be quite right here with the Brits.
Well, to be honest, traditionally we always have lined up a Kentucky show, which is US versus Europe, and it's always been. I mean, some of those 4-star horses have been into 5, and you know, actually, when say some of the middle level German challengers were there, and Michael, you were probably in a bet like the best of the US taking on Michael Oliver and some of the others. You had a legitimate concept around Europe against the US when you put on an Olympic trial at Kentucky and you send the best of them over to the 4-star short. Cooley Nutcracker aside, because Cooley Nutcracker is a hugely exciting horse, and on cue as a 5-star winner. Like, so we're not talking about also runs here. We're talking about, and you know, Vermiculus and Lauren have been there for a long time. We're not talking by any stretch that these horses can't win it, but you got to put it into the context of you're taking on a European champion, albeit with Nicola Wilson, JL Dublin, and I think you're right to flag the redemption element of that coming off the back of the more recent Europeans. But you're taking on a European champion in Dublin, you're taking on a world champion in Banzai de Loire, you're taking on a 7-time 5-star winner, a 3-time Kentucky winner in Oliver Townend and Cooley Rosalind. So yeah, in short, absolutely. I mean, very difficult. You might get one horse past them, one of them might come out, but all 3 of those aren't coming out. So I'd be very surprised if the 5-star crown isn't heading back to the UK.
We talk US versus Europe. However, I want to throw New Zealand in there, because Monica Spencer and Artist, I think, are ones that we've got to keep an eye on this weekend, because they actually can produce quite a low first phase. In Maryland last year, it was 28.4. However, at Adelaide, they have done a 24 before, and it was at the Worlds in 2022, 25.6. So actually, I definitely think that they're ones to keep an eye on in the first phase as ones that could be pretty high up that leaderboard.
I mean, for me, with like, it's a yes to that. But it goes to the point I would say earlier in that, like, sometimes the prep challenge is slightly different. So last year, if I'm not mistaken, they sent a lot of horses to Kentucky. Now this year, I don't think that's the case. But Monica and Nicole, am I right thinking Monica's actually based in the US now? Did they go there for the year? Is that right?
Yeah, Rosie did the interview with her. That was the one I was meant to do, and then baby dropped out a little bit unexpectedly early. But yeah, she's based over there. She's made a real commitment to come over and, you know, do a kind of a Paris campaign from the US. I really like the combination. I think they've had some very, very good form. They kind of threw themselves into public spotlight, I guess, when they did that very good test in Pretoni. However, it's just worth noting, yes, it was a very, very good test. It was quite a low scoring weekend. So that's just worth keeping in mind. It's interesting to see a Kentucky without Tim and Janelle coming over with at least one horse between them. We've seen years where they've come over with a lot of horses. I'm actually interested by a couple of the other nations, because you talk about New Zealand coming in there, and I think rightly so. However, I think we've got the rising stars of Germany who we should be looking out for as well. The kind of the hits keep coming for the home nation in this, and we will get on to the home nation listeners because they do have some good chances as well. But you've got Calvin Bachman, the young, who's won so many Pony Junior Young Rider medals, listeners, that he honestly must have a sore neck from carrying them all around, because he's just got the most extraordinary record coming up the levels. Phantom of the Opera is a really interesting one for him. Top 25 at Blenheim last year, have had some other good placings at the 4-star level. Calvin is very much tipped for the German team in the future. They've also got Marlin Hansen-Hotop and Kolitos Quidditch K, who were the Blenheim winners from a couple of years ago, and actually were very, very impressive there. Again, another one to be kind of considering for the German team. And then the lovely Susie Berry is over as well, and I think she shouldn't be discounted at all. I think she wouldn't be making the trip out if she didn't think Clever Trick had a good chance of performing well this weekend.
Yeah, I think there is some class combinations, like you say, from the other nations. But I'm going to ask you both the same question as we did in the 4-star. Who leads the dressage in the 5-star?
Tom McHugh and JL Dublin. They scored 20.9 in Cronenberg, and it was a very, very, very hot Cronenberg class for the 4-star a few weeks ago. I think they will lead. I think it'll be very tight between him and Banzai de Loire.
They scored 20.9.
20.9, JL Dublin. And it was a very, very good section. So if you look at, he scored 20.9. You had the likes of Bubby Upton and Kohler scoring 25.8. I think the closest challenger in the first phase was Chris Burton, Clever Louis on a 25.8, something like that. I don't know, there might have been one more that snuck in somewhere. But he was well out in front, and he actually was very, very good in all 3 phases.
If he leads, I think it could be hard to get past him, Tom. But will he lead? Banzai de Loire did a 23.2 at Thorsby. Did a 20.5 in the test before that at the end of last year in the 4-star long at Blenheim. 23.4 in the Europeans. 23.5 at Aachen. 22.5 before that at Belsey. 22s, 23s, all the way across the board with a 20.5 thrown in. I've got something for you, Nicole. They're going to lead. They're going to lead from the start. They're going to lead, and look, we'll fast forward to the end. I think they're going to win this. I think
it'll be hard to get past. It'll be hard to get past Banzai if he's in front. Very hard to get past him.
There's only one other person that I think we've seen deliver this before, and like without skipping around too much, it is Oliver Town and Cooley Rosalind, who, if we accept it, like the front 3 are likely to be the front 3, or certainly big talking points across the whole competition. Like we've seen Oliver do this, where like his test work, like his on the day performance, can be mind blowing. Like we've seen examples of this before, where I think is it Ballamore class or was it master class? I can't remember which, but at Badminton before, or at Kentucky before, they've stayed in around that 27 mark, which is fine. It's kind of where you're talking about Monica Spencer, Rosie, which is like, seriously good work, and will be enough to get them to Paris if they're able to get, and anyone who's able to finish on 27, 28 should probably be in Paris. But I think there's the potential that if Oliver is in the mix on Thursday, Friday, with somewhere in that 23 zone, he's the one who has the experience. Do you remember what it felt like last year? Was it last year when he had to really dig deep? I think it was. And he had a couple of questions on the cross country that he had to really go for. And he did go for. It was very special, I think, the cross-country round. He worked hard. Not with Rosalind, but Oliver at Kentucky this time last year. Am I right? It's 2 years ago I'm thinking of. Oliver at Kentucky, my bomb still won, but Oliver, I'm pretty sure he had like a couple of questions coming. He
masterclass, and then he withdrew at the final course inspection, maybe.
Didn't he have like a couple of ones coming out of the water where he had basically didn't look like any other rider would be able to keep this horse straight, and I think Oliver did. Like this is a guy who's won Kentucky with different horses and multiple times because of his ability to get the job done. And my worry for Yaz and Tom, not that either of them don't know how to get the job done, but he's such a big presence and threat to world number 1. Like the world number 1 on a 3-time winner at the venue. If Thursday, Friday turns into something that we see Rosalind get into the 22, 23 zone, I'd be nervous that he's the one that comes back to win. The class in the field for me is Banzai. and should pull through. But again, who knows? Like between those
They're
three,
all class, to be honest.
I know. But I just think
they're all...
when you saw what that horse did at Aachen in particular, for me, it was exceptional. It was exceptional.
How wild would it be if Oliver won on his 100th 5-star start? That, I think,
a great stat, isn't it?
Oh, it is incredible. 100 5-star starts. That in itself can't be overlooked. Is the sheer volume is just so impressive.
Yeah, so the form guide is out. I think hopefully by the time we're listening to this, the Kentucky form guide will be out. And one of the, we spend a lot of time before these shows going through them, before the big events, going through them, trying to find what the narrative is. And like one which is really interesting here is we're about to land on 100 5-stars for Oliver. I think it's 30 Burleys, 23 Badmintons, 17 Lamulans, and 10 Kentucky. So this will be number 11. This is the one that makes it 100 5-stars. 3 Marylands, 3 World Championships, 2 Bictons, and one. So when I say 2 Bictons, I mean 2 runs, 2 5-star runs at Bicton. Obviously, we only did 1 5-star at that, and then 1 Olympics.
I bet his Kentucky strike rate is something from those 10 runs.
Yeah, 10 runs, 3 wins. And I think, was it a first? I think there was a big podium one.
He's probably had some other good results in there as well.
Yeah, but one interesting one, even just recently, Nicole, sorry, one interesting one, just trying to get the page up for myself here. There is even if you look at the recent form, like I think we have in the form guide, you'll see the all 99 of the runs actually laid out. But in recent form, like you'll see, like it's podiums and wins. Like obviously we're coming off the back of a Burley win. He has got 2 massive chances in a couple of weeks at badminton. And the prediction center is reflecting that when you look at the badminton prediction center, he's the Burley winner. So we're moving back into the Grand Slam conversation, I think, if Rosalind pulls through here.
Can we talk for a second about some of the home favourites? Because I feel like we have been very European focused, rightly so, because there are some of the favourites there. But actually, I don't think we can ignore the home combinations either. Liz Halliday, Cooley Nutcracker, 5-star debut for that horse, and it's a horse that she thinks a huge amount of, as Rosie said, one of the top rated 10-year-olds in the world right now. I think she's going to come in here with she is so unbelievably competitive. She was on the podium here 12 months ago. She's obviously got some really good chances in the 4-star as well, but I think this is, a real sticking a hand up for Paris Shout with this horse here. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing them. The other one that I want to kind of flag up, because they'll start off the pace, but listeners, they have got such a good 5-star record, and that is Doug Payne and Quantum Leap. Because that horse has literally, I think he has done, and I had it here, and I changed my filter, listeners, to go and search for Oliver Townend. Quantum Leap, 6 5-stars. He's been in the top 10 in 5 of them, and they're the last 5 that he has done. He was on the podium here actually in 2022 when he was just 3 seconds over the time cross country. He will be a little bit off the pace in the dressage, I would imagine. If he can go sub 30, which he did do at Maryland's in 2022, he scored a 29.5. He is going to be very, very happy. And I think will put his foot down cross country. He's never made the time at 5-star, to be fair, but has just got such solid form that I think will be in the mix of the best of the US combinations. Because who is going to be crowned the US national 5-star champion? That's the big question.
I think
there's a couple. Go on, Rosie. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think Boyd Martin actually with On Cue stands a pretty good shout as well, because the pair with loads of 5-star experience, as we know, took the win at Maryland in 2021. They were at Burley last year, top 10 there. The pair that have a fantastic cross-country record, because actually the top few riders that we've talked about on the prediction centre, we talked about Redemption. Tom McEwen obviously come back from the Europeans. Yazingham last year had a run out on cross country. Kirsty Chabert, who's up there on the prediction centre, also had a run out on cross country. So I think that actually is going to be such an important phase as always. But On Cue and Boyd Martin are ones that really can climb in those jumping phases. So I think they're definitely one to keep an eye on from a US point of view.
If you want an insight, listeners, into the cross-country course for Kentucky, go and listen to the Building Kentucky show, because Derek DeGrazia is actually gives us a few little sneaky hints and tips as to what this weekend might involve. But there's some great characters that build the course. Tyson and Mick and Levi and everybody do a great job, and it's well worth going to have a listen back to that.
I think there's a couple of different ways of looking at the big US challenge. But all of the horses that we're talking about, Cooley Nutcracker, average dressage around that 28, 29 mark. They're 2 rails off the people that are probably the podium. So they've got their work cut out from the first phase. The dominance of this first phase, the dominance of how the dressage podium impacts the final podium at Kentucky is massive. If you're leading on Saturday night, I think it's 12 of 13 cross-country leaders have gone on to win Kentucky now. It's no Kentucky winners come from outside the top 5 after dressage for a long time, certainly before rec ratings. So from a win point of view, I would go back to the 3 that we're talking about that are able to give us 22s and 23s. The horses that we're talking about here, Nutcracker, averaging a 28, also has never been to 5-star before, Nicole. It's a new challenge. Now, I love Nutcracker, a Cooley Nutcracker, and I think rightly up there with Cooley Rosalind. But Cooley Rosalind came through a tough test on a 5-star at Maryland. Nutcracker has a 5-star question still to answer.
To be fair, Cooley Rosalind went to Lemulan as well, so actually has 2 5-star runs in comparison to her first time at the level for Nutcracker.
Quantum Leap with Doug, as you mentioned, 6 5-stars, but again, that 29, at 5-star, the average is 33. And I think the fact that you see from a cross-country point of view and from a jumping point of view, Quantum Leap being an exceptional jumper, show jumper, and Doug being an exceptional show jumping rider as well. I think what you see with Quantum Leap and Doug is the ability to climb. The sad thing about the sport in the modern era is that it's very difficult for people to climb from too far. 29, well, it could well, Nicole, be enough to be the best of the US Challenge. Ariel Grawl, Laymore Master Plan, I would say the same. But they start high. They start on 35s. So for Quantum Leap, for Laymore Master Plan, even potentially for a horse that we're seeing with a bit of a comeback in Lauren Nicholson and Vermiculus, who the prediction centre will still rate quite highly, but is coming back off, we hadn't seen them since, we saw them once out this year, but we hadn't seen them before that since Pretoni. But at Pretoni, they were delivering, Lemulan did a 26.5, Pretoni to give us a 27.1. They would be the highest up if Vermiculus was going to be able to come back with some of the form that we saw in 21 and 22. But again, there's a big question mark over what that absence will mean in a Kentucky dressage arena. Where I'm going with that is I think there is a lot of interest in where they'll all end up in the US champion from the 5-star. If we only got the right conditions, where potentially the first phase score was wiped a little bit by a very tough cross-country track, by some kind of give in the weather, something which leveled the playing field a little bit, you might see Quantum Leap or Laymore Master Plan for Ariel Grawl come through a little bit higher, because 35 or would be enough, as we saw in Maryland with a tough cross country track. But if it plays out as we expect it to, and the conditions are very good, Kentucky is like a strong but not very strong cross country track. You then go back to the big 3. So I think you're right to flag them, but it's conditions won't be in their favour, is my gut feeling, Nicole, for them to climb into the podium spots. Nutcracker aside, who I would leave a bit of a question mark on because we haven't seen at this level, but from what we can see, we're seeing 28s, and I think that's 5 marks off the big boys.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. But I think in terms of who will be the best of the US, the other one to throw into the mix is Hannah Sue Holberg, Capital HM, who were 4th at Maryland last year, which was a huge career result for Hannah Sue. And I think they're back again here. Yes, tall order, but absolutely, look out for them, because they scored a 32, I think, in Maryland last year, which is a couple of marks better than a few of the others we've been talking about. So should well be in the mix.
I want to ask both of you, who leads going into the show jumping? Because the show jumping last year wasn't particularly influential. And do you think if they lead going in, that's kind of it?
The show jumping last year made me so nervous because when you have a show jumping course, really influential, the leaderboard, while there is potential for lots of movement, generally speaking, people have polls and then other people have polls. So it all kind of shuffles in order. When you have a day like we saw last year, whereby everybody's jumping clear, and it's a really, really high clear rate, you cannot afford a single fence down, because if you have a fence down or if you have a couple of time penalties, all of a sudden it is so expensive and you just plummet on the leaderboard. And I got so nervous about it going into the top 10 last year. For me, I think that the horses at the very, very top that we're talking about, the JL Dublins, the Banzai de Loires, Cooley Rosalind had 2 down in Maryland last year, which was uncharacteristic for her. They're good jumpers. I think that I'm not expecting massive changes. There's no huge question marks for me, but I think it'll be close enough, which means that if anybody does have a rail, like we saw Yaz and Banzai had the last down at Blenheim last year, which cost them the 4-star long title, when they jumped the most immaculate round, it's very expensive. But I'm not foreseeing a completely dramatic show jumping.
Can you put a name as to who you think is going to lead going into the show jumping?
I'll just tell you who I think is going to win.
Go for it.
Are we on that bit yet or not?
Well, I'm going to see if Dee has any particular rider he thinks is going to lead going into the show jumping, but then I'm more than happy to have podiums because this is where it gets exciting.
I think it's probably the same answer, to be honest, based on the trends, because if you look at we talked about it briefly, but I just got to have the page now in front of me. And it is amazing when you just see it laid out. It's a big reminder. Go back to 2010, cross-country leader, Cool Mountain and William Fox Pitt. They go on to win. King's Temptress, Mary King, 2011. They go on to win. 2012, going into that big hot Sunday afternoon in a full stadium. It was Park Lane Hawk in 2012, go on to win. Quimbo 2013, they go on to win. Bay My Hero 2014, they go on to win. I won't do the whole lot, but only 2 have not done it. Wesco, do you remember that? Wesco against, do you remember Wesco against, was it Rocana, I think? I think it was Wesco against Rocana. They were jumping and Wesco had a rail. But Wesco wins the 2015 one. Oh no, Wesco was the 2015 leader, but had a rail. And Rocana was the 2018 leader, but had a rail, which would have been a 4-timer, which would have been history. Very, very rarely does the cross-country leader not go on to win. I agree with you, Nicole. The tension last year in a high cross-country jump, in a high show jump and clear round felt different, but that's just emotion. That's not data. The data is telling you, actually, we were seeing an unprecedented level of clears last year in the show jumping, and we'll probably come back a little bit to the norm, I expect, this year. Who wins?
You can do your podium first, Andy, if you want. Go for it. For the 5-star, this is. We'll then do 4-star in a second.
I think Banzai will win. No. I think Cooley Rosalind will win. I think Banzai will be second.
Ooh.
And I think Dublin. No, and I think Quantum Leap will be third. Doug Payne.
So what happens to Dublin? Again for me? So Rosalind, Banzai, Quantum Leap. Is that who you're saying? Oliver Townend, Yasmin Ingham, Doug Payne.
It'll be a gap. Doug Payne will finish on a higher score. Like he'll be in the, I don't know, like he could be 33. It'll be enough to get him in.
All I'll say, listeners, come to the eventing podcast for all of the hard-hitting analytics. Third place will finish on a score that is slightly further back than first and second.
What I'm trying to say to you is, if you look at badminton the last couple of years, there's been a big gap between it. He's not going to deliver. He's like, I'm saying Dublin will have a run out. I'm saying that he'll have a 20 or something will happen, and that Doug Payne's scoring profile will only get him to 30s something, but it'll be enough. The other 2 will duke it out.
Okay, mine is I'm going to say Yasmin and Banzai de Loire win, but I'm going to say they come from second after dressage. Tom McEwen has a couple of time penalties cross country, and there's not much in it. And so Yaz just leapfrogs him, and then she takes the win. JL Dublin, Tom McEwen will come second. Oliver Townend, Cooley Rosalind will come third. Doug Payne will take the US National 5-star Championship with Quantum Leap.
We're both going for Quantum Leap.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's got a great 5-star record.
I am going to say that Tom McEwen and JL Dublin take the win. Very, very, very close behind is Yasmin Ingham and Banzai de Loire.
Don't tell me number 3 is Rosalind.
No. It's going to be Liz Halliday, Coolie Nutcracker. So they will take the US title. But that's my 3 for the 5-star. Now, what are we thinking for 4-star? Because this is
Don't
just
bring me back here. Don't bring me back.
I am bringing you back to the 4-star.
I'll talk about that big elephant in the room. Okay, so I think, do we all, on scoring, you expect it to be Chin Tonic, but we also saw Chin Tonic get some time penalties in the 5 last year. Do we think anything?
I'm happy. I'll go.
Go for it, Nicole.
Go for it.
Will Coleman Chin Tonic will win. I think I agree. I know, Dee, you were going to say they had time penalties last year, but I think that he's come out stronger and fitter this year. 100%.
Well, it's a 5 and a 4 as well, isn't it? So
yeah, and he's, I think, been very much campaigned towards a tilt at Paris with a 9-minute cross-country track. So Chin Tonic wins for me with Will Coleman. I'm going to say second is Liz Halliday, Mixmaster C, and third is going to be Boyd Martin. And it was a case of which Boyd Martin horse do I go for? And I'm actually going to go for Commando 3.
That's so similar to what I was thinking. I'm going to have a think now, but that was very good, Nicole. Have you made up your mind?
Yeah, I've made up my mind, but I don't know if it's a good news story for the US or for the future of eventing. I'm going to say that Will Coleman does win, but he wins on the Aachen winner off the record.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. You're throwing lots of curveballs in here today.
Well, as you know, it doesn't really matter. This doesn't really matter. We don't actually get to pick them. So I'm trying to think how could it play out? Like if you want a prediction center, it's Chin Tonic Mixmaster C off the record. That's what the data says in terms of horses with big chances of winning it. But I'm trying to think: is there any? What are the chinks here, and what are the areas in? Off the record, you can't ignore. Like off the record is such a class horse and an Aachen winner, and we've seen this happen. If I'm not mistaken, did we see it happen at Carolina? Did off the record beat Chin Tonic? Like certainly in first phase, I think off the record score and profile sits up there alongside. And he has Nicole shaking her head. Off the record is certainly
off the record. His first phase would not be as strong as Chin Tonic.
No. So there's no horse in the world who has that,
but off the record, speaking kind of generally, is like his last few 31.2, 28.1, 31.2, 27 does go down to a 22.1 and then 26.4 in Protoni. So they're his last 6. So he's still very good in the first phase, but isn't quite in the territory of the others. Yeah,
looking at that Aiken showcase maybe last year, 2023, 27. Okay, we'll see. I don't know. He did, maybe I'm thinking, yeah, okay, Carolina last year as well was that 22 that you're talking about. Okay.
Still good good in the first phase. But
yeah, pretty good.
You're not going to say, oh, he's going to definitely lead the first phase.
No, you're right. No, look, Chin Tonic will lead the first phase, you would think, but then I think everything opens up. Okay, I'll go off the record. I'll go Blake, Caroline Pamuchku and Blake to hit the podium, and the other person, I think I'm quite drawn to that Donito for Tammy. Yeah, I'm going to go. I think you're right, Nicole. Recent form and more focus, and Donito hits the podium here. So the other horse, the second horse, hasn't
run internationally for a year. Is my question mark over it?
Okay, that's a pretty valid question mark. What about Lady Chatterley with Leslie Law? Good.
I mean,
okay, neither of you are jumping at it, but all right, I'll do that. I'm going to go off the record. What a show I'm predicting. I mean, the 4-star short. I mean, Bobby Costello will be.
Do you know who I think? We've not spoken about actually that you have every right to say, they could be in with the mix here. Is Julie. Sid Elliott, QC Diamond Hair, is the one that actually I think we've not spoken about that really should have been in the conversation at some point. Not necessarily to win, but he's got some very good form. He's very reliable generally in both jumping phases. He was top 10 at the Pan Ams last year. Just and those 2 rails down in the jumping were uncharacteristic enough for them. They were third here. They've got Kentucky form. They were third here in the 4-star last year. And actually they were top 10 at Kentucky 2022 in the 5-star. So I'd say QC Diarm and Tear is one that should probably be in the mix. So I'm not going to promote her to my podium. I'm not going wild, but I don't want to discount her.
Are you sure we encourage wildness at the minute, Nicole? So
no, I've got plenty of wildness in my life right now. I don't need any more. I'm grand. I've made a decision. I'll stick with it.
My podium, I'm going to go for Will Coleman. Chintonic will take the win. I'm then going to say, Boyd Martin, Commando 3, and then Caroline Pimichku, HSH Blake is what I think. But it's going to be a fantastic weekend of sport. Dee, Nicole, thank you both for coming on the show and taking a look and previewing it with me.
Thank you for having me back.
Oh, we've loved having you back, Nicole. We've really missed you. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Excitement is well underway for the first US 5-star of the year. And don't forget, you can also play along on Eventing Manager. So go to your app store, download Eventing Manager, and you can then pick your team of 4 for the Defender Kentucky 5-star and play along throughout the weekend. If you're not sure how to play, or if you want a few more tips and tricks on how to win, go and listen to our latest show that has come out, our How to Win Eventing Manager, with 2 experts, experts of the game, giving you all the tips and tricks on how to make sure you can take a top position in your Eventing Manager leagues. But that's all we've got time for. And I cannot wait for the Defender Kentucky 5-star and the Cosequin Kentucky 4-star short.
Decorating course sales, a relatively new direction for the company. It's been going on in the background for a little while now, but time to tell you a little bit more about it. First of all, Sam, how does this work?
We cast the net over everything. And firstly, it's not just what have we got, it's like what are we even looking for? Like what attributes do we need? So that's the first part of the process, being like, what should we be looking for?
Nicole, you ring us there, right? Like let's go to alphabetic days. Remember those days?
All right, Sam.
Yeah.
I am looking for a horse. It is for a young rider who is very decent jockey.
Cool.
And well produce their own young horses, but actually they've got 1 year left in young riders. It's their last chance to go and win a gold medal. And so we want something that has the potential to be on the individual podium and hopefully part of the team at the Young Rider European Championships.
Okay, so the things I'm picking up on. First, we got immediate goal for the Young Rider European Championships, and again for the primary part of that goal to be successful, to be on the podium. We can then look back again through those 15 championships and see what does it take to win. Where do those horses and where do the majority of those horses, where are they at 9 months out from at the end of the year before their championship year? What does it take to win? What does it look like in terms of scores and targets and things like that? And then where should they be at? That's the first thing. What is achieving that goal actually look like, and where should the horse be at now, and on what metrics? So we'll look at phase influence, because you've said to me young rider, so they're still going to be at that 3-star long level. There's still a big emphasis on dressage. It is the most influential phase, and then it's show jumping, and then it's cross country. You don't need to buy a speed machine. We know what we need and what attributes we need. We're going to now whittle over 7,500 horses down to a draft. You're going to have your draft of the top 1% of horses in the world that are most suitable for your goal. But we're going to bring in other factors. Like, you're in England. You might not want to go to Australia or America to try a horse. But what you said as well about being a good rider, you might just, out of a preference thing, be like, look, I've talked to my trainer and okay, maybe we want them in the draft, but we're going to definitely place emphasis on horses that maybe aren't ridden by, a 6-foot man because who's won loads of championships because my daughter, so we've had those requests before. Finding the most suitable horses, and then all our intelligence and the numbers, the metrics that we create, like these ratings like ELO that you hear us talking about all the time, that actually correlate to future performance. That's the key. They actually matter. We're using all those in the beginning. Now we've got what's optimal for you and some of your preferences that suit you. And then our team go in and they'll contact everyone about these horses. We're getting videos from riders, getting as much information. This is all about, the key here, folks, is you can make an informed decision.